I'm Ange-MarieBotroh, and today I will present one part of my PhD project on post-fire carbon storage in boreal forest peatland. As we know, boreal forest plays an important role on climate change mitigation. It represents a larger part of soil carbon stock. And this important carbon stock here is due to the accumulation of mineral soil of organic matter layer, because climate is cold, and some region, like here in Black Moss bioclimatic domain, the abundance of moss, like mainly sphagnum, the clay belt, which is poorly permeable, and the flat topography can lead a peat formation, and in this region, organic matter can reach more than 1 meter, and despite the edaphic condition, the fire can also lead a peat formation, or also called palidification. In this region, the prolonged absence of fire, for example, the current fire cycle is 400 years, and the prolonged absence of fire can lead the more productive forest in lower productive forest, because the peat formation, which is characterized by the lowered forest density, the abundance of sphagnum, it is the moss, a group of moss, and the important organic layer. And this kind of forest lead to the low fire severity. When low fire severity occurs here, forests maintain the lower productivity forest. But if the high severity fire occur, this then can become more productive with the higher forest density and lower ground cover, brownfield ground cover, and the thin organic matter layer. So it is important to understand the fire impacts on carbon dynamic. However, in this region, there are the forest carbon dynamic is poorly documented, and the knowledge on the natural carbon dynamic in forest peatland can help to make a sustainable forest management, because in this region, the palidified forests represent an important wood productivity, an important wood supply. So it is important to understand how naturally carbon can increase after fire. And it can also permit to make a baseline to compare our silvicultural practice, such as harvesting and other. So my objective is to investigate by model the impact of the change in fire severity and fire return interval in the clay belt in the Quebec, Eastern Canada. And especially, firstly, I will compare low fire severity stands and higher fire severity stand. And also I will compare the current fire cycle, which is longer, and with the shorter fire cycle on the climate change projection. So I will test my hypothesis in the forest management units, and I will use I used the carbon budget model which is developed for Canadian forest. In this model, we need some forest inventory which characterize the stand in the landscape, Also, you need the yield volume, age, and you must characterize also your disturbance. And here in my project is the fire. And we'll model carbon in leaf biomass and dead organic matter and soil. Here, I will use dead organic matter to simplify my presentation. It is includes dead wood debris, soil organic matter, and organic matter in the mineral soil. And we can also compare my scenario with the outputs like carbon stock, carbon budget, carbon emission. But because we want to include the most, I use a research version which take account two kinds of bryophytes, the feature mousse here and the sphagnum. Mousse module was based on the mousse biomass, leaf biomass based on the percent ground cover of bryophytes, and is dependently of canopy hardness and wood volume. But because the mousse model was made for the upland forest, the forest which is not palidified with the good forest productivity, canopy hardness was closer than the canopy hardness was closer than the palidified forest, which canopy hardness was open. So the sphagnum ground cover was lower in the mousse model. So I take some empirical data of color sequence, and I adapted this equation for my area study, especially for the palidified forest, which is characterized by the important sphagnum cover over the time. I select in the forest management unit the stand which can be palidified or liable to the palidification. This selected stand was based on the criteria, for example, class draining, soil class draining, lower forest density, and I make two groups of forest type. One forest which is palidified was dominated by the sphagnum, and the other group which is not palidified was dominated by the feature mousse. And our simulation was based on for example, forest which is dominated by the sphagnum would burn severely, and stand which dominated by the feature mousse would burn lowly. So at the landscape level, I compare palidified stands after low fire severity and unpalidified stands after high fire severity. And at the landscape level, we compare the current fire cycle or fire return interval to the shorter fire cycle. Over 100 years, it is the period of fire cycle. And we use also some black trace yield curve according the two group of forest type. I use this graph curve for black trace growth in my model. So this is a preliminary result. If here for the leaf biomass carbon stock, you can see that carbon stock in leaf biomass, tree and moss was more important after high fire severity than low fire severity. And you can see also that this trend depends mainly of the tree biomass, because moss represent only 9% of total leaf biomass. But here we can see that moose leaf biomass was more important than the carbon in the carbon of the moose leaf biomass in the high fire severity, because high fire severity was linked with the lower moose biomass in the stands. What is about dead organic matter? Because here we can see here, dead organic matter was more important after low fire severity than high fire severity. And you can see here, the total organic matter is more important in the low fire severity than high fire severity. And moose represent about 0.5% of that organic matter in the low fire severity. When you come in the, when you put together moose leaf biomass, carbon, and dead organic matter biomass, you can see here that total carbon was important after low fire severity than high fire severity. And overall, organic matter were more important than the leaf biomass carbon. At the landscape level, can see here, this dashed line is the current year fire cycle, and here it is the shorter fire cycle projected under climatic change. And you can see that total carbon was important in the normally as expected. Total carbon was important in the 400 years fire return interval than the shorter fire cycle. Here I just compare my result with literature results, and I can say that my result are written the literature results, but there are some variation in the dead organic matter, because there are many variables in the literature of carbon stock in the soil, and carbon stock it was more complex in the peatland, and my study is preliminary and need to be improved. So for example, by the model methodology, and or to include more field data to improve the results. And in conclusion, I can say that this study showed that the importance of fire and moose dynamic in the carbon storage in the peatland, and it can be a baseline for compare forest practice like harvesting in order to improve forest management and also to mitigate climate change in this region. This project is a part of the global project based on the effects of silvicultural practice on peatland. So my next step is to include in the modelization the silvicultural practice to compare natural baseline to the harvesting scenario. So thank you for your attention, and if you have some questions, I'm available. But please, my English is not good, so you can speak quickly. And if I don't understand, I will translate in French and also answer in English. Thank you very much.